All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board for the board. We hope that you enjoy. Welcome to episode 71 of the KissFAQ podcast. I'm Julian Gill, one of your hosts, and joining me today are Ken, 69th Blizzard on the board. Welcome back, Ken. And Marcus Almighty. Mark.
Greetings.
Well, welcome back, guys. There's only three of us today, so we might as well do a, another threes kind of related topic to discuss. And I think the one that was suggested by you, Ken, just so that everyone knows who comes up with these ideas, because I couldn't think of anything last week, is... take three covers that could be improved, which when you look back through the KISS catalog, I guess it's really kind of easy, especially with a little bit of a revisionism, to say, well, they could have done a much better job on, say, the Elder cover, being the one that jumps out at me, and I'm not going to name that as one of my picks, but it's just too easy a target, the Brown album. But there's a lot of ones, and I'm going to throw this one straight out there just because I get to speak first, and you can't interrupt my monologue right now. And that's one that was raised, and I think it may have been you, Ken, on a previous episode, Unmasked. Mm-hmm. And when I was looking back at all the album covers, I was really thinking that your idea, or the idea that was suggested, that they gave it all away on the cover. Was a real mistake, and I really like the suggestions that were made, that it could have been a gatefold, or it could have been that you don't get inside the story of what was the comic strip until you've actually bought it, taken it out of the shrink, opened it up, and then in either the gatefold or maybe in the inner dust sleeve, if they weren't going to do a gatefold, that you would have gotten the joke. Which is obviously the same under the... or whatever. Or they could have... I like the idea of maybe the Unmasked cover should have been a comic book inserted into an album with more appropriate KISS-like packaging. But... so Unmasked, what are your guys' thoughts on that? And Ken, was it you who came up with that idea before?
Yeah, I think I was part of the idea where I said it should have been a gatefold. And yes, they're revealing the... what is it? They're taking off their masks to show they still have, masks on. Put that on. I said, put that on the inside. That stuff on the inside. So you'll think, hey, well, they're going to really show their faces this time, and I have to get buy this album and open it up. But when you open it up, maybe you'll get the poster version of that in there. Yep. Even I would have taken that. I still think they stink off of that extra panel too. Just leave it at where they're about to remove their makeup, and then if you want to put the stink thing, at least it's on the inside. It's not outside of the front for everyone to see, which I just didn't get. But yeah. And the other idea where you kind of mentioned a little bit, I think they could have done some kind of a fold-out booklet in the middle, had a gatefold, had a little booklet in there, right there, kind of attached somehow, and a comic, like a comic book, you can flip through it, and maybe it's a bigger story. I don't know. But that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, if you look at the size of the booklets that they included in both Alive and Alive 2, so the Evolution of KISS booklet, what's that? Yeah, that's basically, that's only 8 panels. That would have been perfect size for kind of an expanded or maybe bigger, because I've always had a problem reading the text on some of those panels on the, especially the CD version, but impossible on the cassette. But they could have done so much. It's a good concept. I think what you say is also key, is do not have I still say they stink on the cover of your packaging. That's like putting out, say, a new cereal and saying 25% more suckage included free. I mean, but putting a negative on your album cover really seems to be self-defeating. And while obviously it's a joke, it just seems, inappropriate in some ways. And I'd love to know what they were thinking, whether they were like laughing, or to be a fly on the wall at the art review for that session. But I love the idea of a gatefold with that, using that poster image. I mean, that is just, it's a great image, a great piece of art.
Oh, it is. It is.
But again, Mark, thoughts on Unmasked before we move on to someone else's pick?
Well, I think there's not much more to say besides what you guys said. I mean, you guys have touched on all the points pretty much that I would have said about it anyways. I think that they missed out on quite a few things that they could have did to improve it. And I think you brought them pretty much all up, right? I mean, it was just a missed opportunity. Let's just put it that way, right? If you don't mind, actually, I'd like to show my one idea that I just came up with, because this one I thought it was kind of a really cool idea, and maybe I'll just run it by you guys and see what you think. Knowing me for as long as you guys have known me now, you guys probably obviously know that my favorite non-makeup album is Asylum. But to me, I would have liked to have done a further thing to that cover. I mean, I love the album. The album cover, how it is now, would never deter me from loving it as it is. But I had a quick idea, and I'll see if I can maybe show you guys what I had an idea of. So yeah, I had kind of like an actual asylum in the background, right? With Kiss on the kind of overhead drive-in thing there, with Asylum written underneath it. So it's kind of like the Kiss Asylum, right? And underneath there, it kind of says, established 1973. There's some dead trees and stuff like that. And there's like the moon there and stuff like that. So I was thinking more to do an actual asylum kind of idea for that, as opposed to just, 4 faces, which I had no idea how that even means anything to do with asylum, right? But what I thought also, to take it one step further, and I wrote it in pencil on top there, is to make it more alluring to the fans, kind of get back to the idea like they did back in the early days. Like, for the first pressing of the album, put in a bunch of stuff into it, like the extras, like put like a 7-inch single in with it, like the first single of the record. Like, let's say Tears Are Falling, include a 7-inch 45 inside it for it. Also include, I put this down just now, a blank medical certificate, like your own asylum, like, a certificate for yourself inside there, right? So you can fill in your name and stuff like that. Kind of almost like the double platinum idea there with that fake platinum album thing. But, as an actual medical kind of certificate that you can fill in, that you've been put into the asylum, you know what I mean? And then put in a poster as well. But that'll be only for, let's say, like the first 10,000 pressings of the album, and as it goes on further, maybe some of those things won't be in there. Like, maybe they'll take away the 7-inch single. That'll be for the first 10,000 people. You know what I mean? Like, to give it something to make the people go and try to get like those copies early on. It'll maybe entice people to go right away and buy it. You know what I mean? To give it that early push, right? But then, you can keep putting those things in or taking them out as you wish. Like, put a poster in, like a nice picture of them in there, maybe like that kind of straitjacket idea like they had originally before, right? And kind of really attack the name of the album. You know what I mean? That's the only thing I don't like about Asylum as an album, is it's such a great title of an album, but what those 4 faces in those multicolors have anything to do with Asylum, I'll never know,
Yeah, it's like an art school project in some ways, by a very young art school project. And we know, that Paul has said that it's related to like the kind of the visual style of the Motels album that was out sometime before that, and it's kind of Warholian to me anyway. I don't know how accurate that is, but I'm not an artist, so I don't care if I'm accurate. So it's kind of cool, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the title. And I don't actually have Asylum as one of my picks, even though it's one of my favorite albums, and that cover is just such an easy target to pick, isn't it? It just stands out in the catalog along with Sonic Boom as a sore thumb for me. But I deliberately avoided it. And I gotta say, I like the one part that you mentioned in there was the straitjackets. They obviously had not used those for Dynasty. It would have just made far too much sense to use straitjacket image of the 4 guys. I mean, come on. It's almost like too easy. And why the hell didn't you do it? I mean, the pictures, to me at least, that come from Dynasty era, yeah, they look a heck of a lot cooler when you've got a band in makeup. But a few years later, obviously, I think it's Dr. Feelgood, Motley Crue, do a padded cell and the full straitjacket treatment, and it's pretty cool. But Kiss could have actually been ahead of Motley Crue for once in the '80s by using the straitjacket. So it's a good title. Can't speak. It's a good title, and I think it would have made far more sense to kind of go with an asylum, an insane asylum, kind of.
And just one last thing, with that whole medical certificate thing, you could have actually used that as a double to maybe use it for people to do like a fan club thing, if you fill out this and send it back in, you're now a part of the Asylum fan club, like the KISS fan club. You know what I mean? Like use it as some sort of means besides just like a trinket. You can use it to maybe have people join up a newly run fan club,
Well, I would just like to thank the person who tried to snipe me on the elder test pressing. Ouch.
Nice.
Okay, got some KISS shit for sale.
Wow.
All right, let's move on from there. So that's your first pick, right, Mark?
Yeah.
Asylum. All right, Ken, throw something at throw a pick at us.
Yeah, before I go into my pick, I'll just say about Mark's. I said he had a good idea there, and where he has KISS Asylum kind of reminds me of Arkham Asylum, Batman kind of thing.
Yeah.
A crazy place for the really nut jobs. So yeah, straight jackets I agree with too. Just all makes sense. Maybe throw in a fake syringe or something. A movable paper thing, and then it says real KISS blood or something.
Or Chip Magoo. You can just hear him in the background going, "Here's your KISS branded lobotomy kit. Give yourself a lobotomy. Have twice the lobes."
Or kind of like, the old Alice Cooper album From the Inside, where they had little, flip open kind of thing. They could have done that in a KISS album, and that would have been a good thing too.
Good idea, Ken.
All right, so my first one. Some people are probably not going to like this, but I'm gonna pick the first KISS album. While it's classic,
I thought those first ones were going to be sacrosanct, that no one was going to be brave.
Well, most of them are, but while this goes back to experience, and I've explained before that someone showed me. This is a couple of years before I got into KISS. He was showing me some of his albums, showing me ZZ Top, a Deep Purple, Made in Japan, and he pulled out this album that had 4 clowns on the, which I thought it was 4 clowns. I said, "What are 4 clowns singing? What the heck is that?" And I just kind of discarded it and then didn't think about it at all. That was the last I heard. I just ignored it. And then, a couple years later, I'm sitting here buying all that stuff. But so my thought there is it's not a true representation. I mean, I see they were trying to go for the Beatles look, kind of a Meet the Beatles kind of photo in a way. But it's not showing it. I mean, it doesn't explain enough to me. It's just like, what the heck are they doing wearing makeup? And that's all you see. You don't see anything else. So I would have rather have had, whether like either it could be black and white, shot or something on the front cover of them on stage, in makeup, of course, in their full regalia costumes. That would be a better explanation. If I would have saw that, I'm like, oh, what? I would have said, what's this? This looks kind of cool. Looks, you just have to have the whole thing there. They're a theatrical band. There's all image. They're not showing the whole image. They're showing a face only. You can do that later on, like with Dynasty, because you already know by that time that they have all the outfits and everything going on. So I would have changed that. I would have changed the cover to, represent them better as the band on stage in their full gear, because they were, that's their thing. They were live on stage. Kind of, if you go to KISS Alive, that's what they did there, and they did it right. So I would have had something like that on the back cover. I don't know. They could have left it as it is, or thrown a couple more, shots in there. Maybe they could have put the 4 faces on the back, like closer up images. Those faces on the front could have been on the back in panels, and then the front would have had them on stage, kind of thing. That's what I would.
Well, I think one thing that you brought up that's very important, that this is going to be their first, representation of themselves as a band. Exactly. So nobody knows about this band. So the thing thing that I didn't like about that is that when they just show that they're like just four singers that are just like that, you don't get any indication of them being an actual like a musical band. It could be just four singers. You know what I mean? If you would have did what you suggested, where they were on stage playing instruments, you would at least know then that they're this is the drummer, guitar player. It's not that was the only thing that maybe people might have been scratching their head a bit, was saying okay, well, are these guys like a group? Are they a four-piece singing group? What is it? You know what I mean? That would have made it a little bit more clear, right?
Yeah, and it would make them look more, dangerous. They don't look dangerous just by that. I think that with the costumes the way they were, it's like the S&M kind of stuff and that they were wearing at
all
the time.
black.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that was I'm surprised that they didn't market that one better.
So then, I mean, you saying dangerous, that's a key word. I have a hard problem touching that first album at all, just because it is so iconic.
It's iconic.
But when you say dangerous, I immediately think of that poster that shows up in some of the
knife.
The knife. One of the I think that's the Rayanne Rubinstein photo sessions or the Red Room sessions that obviously they did with both Paul wearing the bandit and the star makeup. So they definitely had him in what was used. And the red background just stands out. Red's that power color. It catches the eye, and with the smoke and the fog, and I don't know exactly if she did shoot that one. I'm trying to look up one of Ross's references here. That's January the 28th, 74, so that's probably a little bit too late to actually be used. But damn, it would look fantastic on an LP. Glossy, instead of it being a promo insert for very few copies that people seem to have held on to, it would have looked a lot better and would have at least had a little bit more of a story than the kind of the heads, the floating heads. And the back cover, I mean, come on, you can pretty much do anything to make that back cover better than it is.
Yeah, it was kind of...
It's like leftover.
Very simplistic.
Very simple. Yeah.
Here's our close up of the logo, and I like the arc and the arrangement of all the text at the bottom. That's kind of cool. But that could easily have been overlaid. So yeah, I kind of have convinced myself that yours was a good idea for touching something.
I know. Well, I know they're classic, and I think of them all as classic now. But if I was back then and just trying to design something, I would have done it a little different.
Yeah, that was the first question I kind of asked myself when I started thinking about this topic. Which albums would I not touch? Or which ones just do not need touching? Double Platinum, obviously, is perfection and execution. There's just no way for me anyway, to make it any better than how they did it, which is just absolutely wonderful. Alive is absolutely wonderful. I don't think that can be changed. It's just way too iconic. And then we get to some of the other ones, and I'll give you my second pick now. And Lonnie, this one's for you. Going out to St. Louis and that crazy kid, Revenge is another one of those albums that you kind of understand where they're going with the concept of the side of a military jet or plane or whatever, or fighter, and revenge scrawled in blood font or type. And it never worked for me. It was always, I'm like, this is like The Elder Part 2, which I guess is not too far from the reach with Bob producing, but it's just so nondescript. It doesn't jump out of it. It's a bland gray color, and even the red on it doesn't pop. There's nothing that jumps out, and even though LPs were going by the wayside at that point, I think you need something to grab people's attention. My initial thought was, look at the dust sleeve. That's a great band picture, a great studio shot. If you just want to slap a logo on it, I was always impressed by the 1985 reissue of Creatures and that photo session that they used for that cover. That the one from the dust sleeve of Revenge in black and white, where's the color version of that? Surely they did both. Would have been a little bit more impressive, because it immediately shows you their change in style, that, they're all leather and steel again, back to what they were when they were dangerous. And, for people who bought the CD, I don't think you see it. I don't have one handy to look at and verify, but I don't think you necessarily get a good feel for that on the back or looking at the back of the CD. So, again, it's Kiss. Kiss is visual. Kiss is about the personalities, and having them on the cover is generally a very good idea rather than having a nondescript. It's camouflage. It's like urban camo. It blends into nothingness in the record store. So definitely want something that's going to grab attention more. And I didn't go on the inside of everything that they could have done, because in 1992, Polygram would have laughed them and said, "We're not doing anything. You're just lucky that we're putting this out. So don't ask us for any premiums. You're getting 4 pages. Here's your, whatever." So I didn't go that deep into it. Thoughts on Revenge, if any?
Well, I mean, I agree. It's definitely something that's, again, it's just like a piece of steel you're name, and that's about it, right? So they could have done a hell of a lot more with it. I mean, like you said, to kind of give the impression of Revenge, maybe they could have put themselves in more like battle regalia, maybe even on the front cover, to kind of drive that point home, maybe Gene with a bullet chain thing across his chest there, I mean, I know he's not really for war and stuff like that, but I mean, if you're trying to put across that whole revenge, situation there, why just put that on there? I mean, I'll be honest with you, for the longest time, I had no clue what that front cover was supposed to be telling me. Really, I mean, it just looked to me like a piece of, like a wall, like somebody spray painted Revenge on it. I didn't really realize that it was the side of an airplane or something like that, or a jet fighter, right? To me, I mean, that really, I mean, unless I'm some kind of airplane expert, I don't think I would have clued into that right away, But again, this seems to all go back to one thing: missed opportunities, and I don't understand why that term is so firmly attached with Kiss, but it saddens me. I mean, this is such a great band, and they've done so many great things and made so many people happy throughout the years. Why do they keep letting themselves get kicked in the loins like that with these kind of stupid ideas,
Yeah, and with Revenge, if you think of the last cover they'd done prior to that, and the first Kiss Last Licks, I mean, obviously they'd recycled the kind of, up against a wall kind of, element, that they had good ideas. They had some decent art. I mean, even going back to those Crazy Night singles, at least Reason to Live, the single was colorful and grabbed your attention, even if, it's a little bit one of those ones that you'd rather forget because you immediately remember a blue thong. But, at least it grabbed the eye. And when you struggle to sell 500,000 copies, you think you'd really want to grab more attention to your product rather than, just having it look like someone spray painted Revenge on a frying pan.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree. Even though it's militaristic, I guess, that cover. That's what I always thought at first when I first saw it. But, I would have rather had the image showing that they've changed their image. So having them on the front cover would have made more sense to me, because they're not looking like the Asylum look or the Hot in the Shade look, for that matter. They've changed. Gene's changed, the most, obviously. But I would have rather have seen that, like, oh, these guys look a little, more like they should look, or a little tougher than they had in the previous few years. So definitely that was high on my list for a change. I think that would have been
there's militaristic and there's militaristic, because look back at the Dreadnought for Creatures Era and the drum riser, the cannon, or you've got Paul Stanley in the Kiss Navy in Asylum Era. Remember that little sailor hat?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's military and there's military. They could easily have gone back to the well of creatures with tough as nails. We are the Kiss Army. We are the and done something along a much tougher, theme than they did. And Gene looks awesome. I mean, Gene front and center should be on that album and should be the centerpiece of that cover, because it's Gene's revenge in so many ways on the album.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. That's Revenge, I guess.
All right.
Mark.
All right, so my next one, actually, it's ironic what my next one is, because we've been kind of touching a bit on it while we've been discussing Revenge. And my next one is Crazy Nights, actually. Now, again, another album cover, which to me is a complete miss. I mean, Crazy Nights, it's just, again, a picture, four faces on a smashed mirror. Like, really? That's the craziest night you have, is just like a smashed mirror? Like, give me a break. So I'll just show you a really quick, very, very rough idea of what I had in mind. So on this side here, I did like just a release. It's just supposed to be like just like a table with a bunch of bottles and poker table chips and, smashed beer cans on the bottom and stuff like that. Like, basically, if you're gonna go Crazy Nights, I wanted to kind of, and this is 1987, so I wanted to kind of evoke the idea of, if you're gonna go out and have a crazy night. I mean, Guns N' Roses was out at this time and stuff like that, so they already kind of gave you back that whole, dangerous street vibe back into the whole music thing. So they wouldn't have been amiss to maybe put something a little bit more, up this alley. I think, like maybe, a bunch of booze on there and stuff like that. And just something more of a kind of a party-ish scene on the front. That to me would be a much more of a crazy night than a picture again with four faces in a broken mirror. Now on the back, I had another idea of putting like maybe like a car, one of their cars, on their license plate, maybe it'll say Simmons or Stanley, with a cop car behind them pulling them over. You know what I mean? Kind of giving them that whole dangerous vibe again, where, these guys got pulled over by the cops. Why? You know what I mean? Like, why are these guys so dangerous? You know what I mean? Like, and then like have all the credits on the back here, like the song titles and stuff, and just have that image at the bottom here, right? Of kind of like the police car and stuff. And to go one step further, when we were thinking about the extras, I think at this point they might not have been doing that for them at this point. But if they would have done it, again, I really like that idea of putting in a 7-inch single with the album. So maybe for the first little bit, put in like, whatever, Reason to Live or whatever the first single was, put in there with it. And another one, this is maybe beating the party thing over the head a little bit, but maybe include like a Kiss beer bottle opener in with it, like a little thing, plastic one that says Kiss on it, like a little party kind of, bottle opener that you can have inside there. And then like a poster in with it as well, like some crazy party scene poster, and kind of drive home the Crazy Nights idea behind it. Because I think this is the one, if anything, we seem to all have the same basic problem with these covers, is that they have a great title, but they always seem to miss out on the image to go with the title. You know what I mean? It just seems like, Crazy Nights, a great title, but yet they give you that for the front cover. It's like, come on. I mean, sure, maybe they would not have agreed with some of my imagery because they're so against drinking and this and that, but I think that would have been more of a Crazy Night, picture to me than anything that they did there in 87.
Yeah, I kind of like your thoughts. I think that I could have seen something like them either in a room or hotel room. They're sitting around the table, the four of them from around the table, maybe playing poker or something. But then just around them, there's other people, mayhem, people passed out, someone fighting in the other corner, and they're just kind of, the contradiction to it. They're just kind of ignoring the whole crazy stuff going around them. But they could have done all kinds of. They could have done that in the bar, like you said, or something.
Yeah, they could have brought Ace Frehley in, as a consultant. Hey, Ace,
right.
What is a crazy night, Ace? We've got this great title, but we don't really know what it means.
Can't remember.
And Ace would be like, well, okay, for a Gene Crazy Night, it's going to be a brownie on the cover.
Right.
For Paul Stanley, I think Paul's had enough crazy nights that, wouldn't be able to
locked in the car.
X-rated.
X-rated, yeah. Paul, I'm sure, knows exactly what a crazy night is, but I like that cover. That's probably one of the few nice things I can say about Crazy Nights, the album. But if you want to make it a little bit more crazy, I think they should have gone the whole route that Bon Jovi had gone with Slippery When Wet. If you've ever seen the original cover for that, which is just the woman's breasts in a stretching, tearing apart, top. That obviously they couldn't use that back then and were forced to change to something. But 2 years later, or a year later, because what was that, 86 for Slippery, that they should have tried to get something really attention grabbing like that out. Crazy Nights, a wet T-shirt, kind of theme, since they're on the same record label, and then anything on the back cover except for that awful picture. It's just, Paul Stanley on the back cover needs to go.
I mean, I'm telling you, the cop car thing I think that's the way to go, man. That's crazy.
Well, anything's better than a blue thong,
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm sorry, Eric Carr's duck lips aren't much better, especially when he had some pretty cool outfits going through '88, 87 through '89. I mean, he was wearing that green military jacket a lot, and some of the gear that he was wearing was pretty cool. Gene is actually the one person who looks decent. What's Vivian Campbell doing on the back with the yellow guitar there? Bruce looks. So I like the shattered mirror thing. Obviously, the shattered glass harkens back to Paul's mirror, so I get it from that perspective. But Crazy Nights, I think I just turned into Prince's Black Album. All right.
Next.
Me? You.
Well, I'm going to go with Animalize. That cover, I don't get it. I mean, it's a bunch of skins thrown, and it's just throw these skins down and take a picture of it. It just doesn't make any sense. What does it mean? What does Animalize mean?
See? That's what I mean.
It doesn't, yeah. They should have had even a different title. I would have rather them had maybe, Heaven's on Fire as the title. Since that's going to be the lead song, call the Heaven's on Fire and do something else with the flames, the fire, heaven. They're there. And heaven and the white kind of, maybe the white with the cobblestone or whatever, the pylons.
Yeah.
Everything's white. But then they're playing to this like God. They're playing their instruments, and they're just in their crazy outfits as they always are anyway. But they can wear their animal skins there. But they're playing in front of the gods, or at the pearly gates. I think that would have made more sense to me. And Heaven's on Fire, flames going up behind them. The flame pot's going. They just can capture that as they go rising. So I think that would have been a better cover, because what they had is not very good. The back cover of that was all, as we know, was piecemeal together, snippets and this and that. I mean, it's okay. It looks okay, but I would have changed that too. If you're going to change the front, like I said, how I would have liked it, I would have changed the back too.
I think changing the front's a key thing. Number one, Animalize, if they kept that title, really should have been in hot pink letters instead of red, since, Vinny. But, that cover was so lazy, but that whole era was kind of lazy in terms of the packaging. If you look at the single that got picture sleeves in Holland, in England, the flaming tennis ball single cover. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I have that.
But it's really dreadful, so it's not like just here's a bunch of throw rugs that we rented for a day and kind of arranged. And, Animalize, I remember there is an interview of Paul explaining what Animalize means. And, I can't do it off the top of my head because I'm just not prepared today. And, it doesn't make any sense. But again, you get... shit. It's just uninspired.
It's a head scratcher.
Yeah,
they walked in his home, Paul Stanley's home, and some guy took a picture by accident. He had it on the camera, and he had hit the button, and it took a picture of his carpeting or something. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Oops. We'll use this for the cover. But then look at the Japanese discography, the singles. Look at the Heavens on Fire single cover there. It's a close-up of what is the back cover, but in terms of the type they use on the text, Heavens on Fire, that looks almost better as an album cover if you take out, obviously, the Japanese text and replace it with, the overlay of Heavens on Fire and all the B-side stuff. That would work better for me as a front cover, because still call it Heavens on Fire, call it Animalize. It doesn't really matter. The cover at least then makes more sense. That I think a band picture usually works better than anything else. Whether it's for Kiss, a cartoon version, than something a little bit more maybe artistic or lazy. Depends where you want to go. Mark, you were on a thought there before I jumped
Well,
in.
I was just always kind of wondering that as we were talking about this, like, who's really in charge of this artwork? I mean, did they actually have an art guy consultant that did this cover for them? Because I mean, I just don't understand where they came up with this idea from, or how they tried to make sense of it. I mean, like we were just saying, this is just 4 pieces of cloth that they took a picture of. And I mean, I get the idea that each cloth is supposed to represent them, one of them for each cloth. Okay, I can get that. I'm not a dummy, but but what does that really have to do with Animalize? You know what I mean? Like, sure, it's animal skins, so Animalize, but it's just weak. I mean, they could have did so much more with it. And I think basically the trouble is just the title, because if they had a better title, then they could have had so much more imagery to work with, right? I mean, just think of any of the other songs, like you said, "Heaven's on Fire," great example, right? Or, or whatever, "Murder in Heels" or whatever. Anything would be better.
Well, "Thrills in the Night," I think.
Yeah,
that would have worked too.
Paul loved that song, and that was kind of his key one on there, because if you take "Heaven's on Fire," "Under the Gun," and "I've Had Enough," that's all his kind of generic rock stuff. "Thrills in the Night" is more artistic. I think that would make a much better title. And then that ties in better with the 4 guys who are standing in a night scene with some lava and flames on the back. It makes more sense. Then it ties together with your picture and your title. But, Animalize is like, well, okay, I kind of get it. I'm going to go Animalize it, man. Drop that word into a sentence.
I'm guessing Paul came up with it. Just sounds like something Paul would come up with as a title. Said, "Okay, we're going to call it Animalize. Okay, now make a cover of that and represent it." And some guy just, wasn't inspired by that.
It's like a leftover Vinnie Vincent idea. That Vinny said, "I've got this song called Animal. Here's what it's about." And then it's later, "Oh yeah, remember what Vinny said? Well, let's just use that idea." But Vinny's no longer around to explain the context or give you the song "Animal," which kind of explains where it's going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree totally. I mean, I think that is where the problem lies, is not so much, well, yeah, the cover, of course, but because of the title, you had the bad cover. Because really, I mean, I don't think many artists or graphic people could have did anything brilliant with a title like Animalize. I mean, remember, words evoke images, right? So if you have a strong title, then you can see many things in your mind to tie in with it, right? I mean, like we just said, just even say Animalize to yourself. What's the first thing that comes into your head when you think of that? Unfortunately, it's just that hideous cover now, right? That's all I can think. I can't think of anything else besides that that would identify with that title, So again, that's just a lesson for all you young bands out there who are starting. Remember, a title for your album is very, very, very important. That's my 2 cents.
Great.
Yes, as is your album art.
Yes.
Yes,
exactly.
Making sense. It's one of my pet hates, actually. Whenever I see a person strolling down the street wearing, leopard skin pants, I just shudder. Or you see a picture from the 70s. Someone's got like a leopard skin settee or sofa in there. You got your shag rug and your. It's just. Oh no, I don't want to go there. All right.
So I think you're up next, Julian. You're next. You're next up. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've actually got the third pick, and you know what I think is entertaining today is I've not had overlap. Obviously, I agree with a lot of the comments you guys have made about your picks, but my 3, we're all pretty. You haven't touched them yet. No one's beat you to the punch. Well, no pre-coordination here. It's all luck of the draw, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So, hopefully, I'm going to beat someone on this. Sonic Boom, which. When you come to Kiss and getting back in the studio after a long layoff and, fixing, I guess to a certain degree, a lot of the errors of Psycho Circus, I just find so much wrong with that cover and that whole package design. It's uninspired, and it attempts to be something by going back and, using, God, I can't think of his name off the top of my head now, but the artist from
Yeah.
Michael Dorrit or Doré.
Yeah,
Dorrit.
that's it. Yeah.
I understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to recapture something that was expressed in the quality of the 1970s art, but the concept and the execution, I think I have a problem with the squiggly lines. I have a problem with the freaking maze in purple, the big bold title in the middle, the artistic flourishes through the pictures of the guy. I mean, there's just so much. It's too busy. There's too much going on. There's too many colors. I like what they tried to do, and I remember him talking, and that's the artist, talking about trying to use a vibrant palette for the art and trying to be very special in how it was going to look and be appealing and eye-catching. But for me, it's eye-catching in all the wrong ways. And I just don't see what else they could have done, because I can't say I'm a gigantic fan of the title either. Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Mark, putting that up. It's one where I really do. Again, I'm going back to maybe it's just my personal preference, and that I'm not very creative visually. Which, if you remember what I was saying about a certain book cover earlier on in the week, Mark. They've got a great band photo on the gatefold of the LP. I think that's really cool. I just think they could have done something a little bit less forced, a little bit less effort, a little bit less trying to recapture. And Sonic Boom, if you're going to go to the well of what you've done previously, I think I would have rather have had them go to Ken Kelly, go back to that rather than the kind of excessive design represented by Rock and Roll Over, which I just don't see how they could have ever thought that he could top that design, because Rock and Roll Over is just absolute perfection. So, of course. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
No, I was just going to say I think you nailed it right on the head there. I think the problem is in them attempting to bring him back to one-up himself, or hope to one-up himself with this cover. It was just failure out of the gate, basically, because that album cover is so like fried in Kiss people's minds. Like that to me, when I think of Kiss, that album cover is the first thing that comes into my mind. I mean, sure, for some people it might be Destroyer, but to me, Rock and Roll Over is the album cover that represents Kiss the best to me. So he had a very difficult task. If they came up to him and said, okay, well, you know what you did in Rock and Roll Over? We want you to better that and do Sonic Boom for us. I just think that he just couldn't do it. I mean, when I look at the cover, I mean, you can tell that the only thing in it that kind of ties back to Rock and Roll Over, when you just really take a quick look at it again, Julian, is that it's just the positioning of where they are. I mean, that's the only thing that's similar to the Rock and Roll Over cover, is how they're just kind of spaced out like that, right? But other than that, it's nowhere near as iconic to me. I mean, I really don't like the texting of the title. The Sonic Boom text I don't think is good at all. I mean, just everything about it just seems kind of really odd. It just even the way they look in it, it just looks kind of really strange to me. It's just a polar opposite of everything that was cool about Rock and Roll Over is represented in this cover.
Yeah, and I remember an interview with Michael Doré recently or a while back. I don't know if it was on the podcast or just text, but he had a different idea for those corner photos. That was given to him by Paul. Paul wanted him to put that there. He had intended to do more like a comic book, drawing, more like the first Rock and Roll Over, a different concept. And I think he had a number of things that were different than the final product. Paul had him change a number of things, and I think I would have liked to have seen the original, concept of that. Maybe it would be interesting. I'm sure he has it. I'd like to see it. And the original idea that he had is probably better than the final product.
Yeah, and that's a really tricky thing. I know about that firsthand from the week I've had, that when you get into art, you have the triangle of the conceptualizer or the concept, and then you've got the client, and then you've got the artist. And it is a triangle that can become very challenging. And I think Sonic Boom probably represents quite a bit of the challenges that are in that. Because look back at Rock and Roll Over. That is a very busy cover. There are a lot of elements in there. There's a lot of stuff going on, but they work. They all come together. You don't feel like it's crowded. You don't feel like, anything's jumping out. Your focus is automatically on the four faces in the middle. Whereas on Sonic Boom, your focus is automatically that gaudy title type, And I would say the one thing that Sonic Boom gets right when you compare it to Rock and Roll Over is how vivid the color palette is. And that's one thing that in some ways Rock and Roll Over is a little washed out, a little dull in comparison. Obviously it works, and collectors out there know that there is the kind of the alternative pink, the hot pink Rock and Roll Over cover from I think I don't think it's an error. I think it's just that the calibration was off, and I think it's the UK issue.
Yeah,
has that. But imagine Rock and Roll Over with popping versions of all those colors, and then would it still work? So I get where they're going with the bold coloring. Again, didn't work for me.
Yeah.
But for that album in particular, I was just more happy to have an album to be able to bitch about a cover. Hallelujah, that's a win.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, that's Sonic.
All right.
That's my third pick. Mark, you're up.
Okay, so hopefully, in continuing with our fantastic not overlapping with each other here, I'm hoping that Ken didn't pick this one as his last one. So I picked Hot in the Shade as the last one to do. Okay, good. So
We're good.
now, again, I kind of get the idea of what they're trying to do with the Sphinx with the sunglasses. Okay, it's pretty hot there in Egypt. I get it, So, but what I figured would be kind of cooler and more up Kiss's alley. Now, this is a really, 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 I don't even know if this is worth showing because I'd have to draw it really quickly. But on here, on this little piece of paper, I drew like over here, there's supposed to be like a swimming pool. Okay. And over here is supposed to be like a recliner with a girl in a bikini. It's like just a little stick person there, right? But just kind of have somebody like laying on like a recliner by the pool, have the guys kind of around the pool as well, right? All in their shades and stuff like that, and have that kind of like the Hot in the Shade idea, you know what I mean? And then the back side, I had a brilliant idea for the back when you flip the side where the credits are and stuff like that, is to have a close-up on the girl. She'll have her top off. You won't see her. She'll be lying on her stomach, okay? But on her back, the Kiss logo will be kind of suntanned into her back. You know what I mean?
I like that.
Right?
I like that too.
Yeah, and kind of have that kind of on the back side and have the songs kind of, they're in the back with her, right? And I thought that was a much more summer idea. I think Hot in the Shade, I think summertime, and I think that to me would have appealed to people, especially guys in the teenage years would have probably jumped at a cover like that. Hey, it's Kiss. Hey, it's a pretty hot girl on a recliner. I think that those things will kind of equate to extra sales, right? So I think that's a good idea. Another thing that I thought as well, now getting into the extras, but I think obviously, as Julian pointed out before, by this point, there's no way in hell they would be getting any of these things in there. But if they would be allowed, again, I would put in that 7-inch. I'm a big lover of that whole idea of the 7-inch single in there. Yeah. Bad
Thanks for clarifying that.
choice of words. Yeah, the 7-inch single in there, right? Rise to it. There's another bad idea there. But put that in with it, right? And another idea I had was maybe to put in a little card, like similar to this size, but to have like on each side, like a summertime mixed drink recipe. Like one of their favorite summertime drinks that they have. Like Paul's favorite mixed drink and Bruce's favorite mixed summertime drink. And have the recipe there for Kiss fans to make their own at home, and then have like the obligatory poster in with it as well, right? Like a band one or whatever, or have another shot of the girl in some poster form with, Hot in the Shade, written on it and whatever. But I thought that would be a much more stronger cover than just having a Sphinx head. Sure, of course, you couldn't bring the girl, on stage and have her open her mouth and have the band come out of that on stage, but the Sphinx works better for that, obviously. But I think the whole girl idea is I think it's a good idea, like the pool and all that. I think that's definitely more up the alley for Hot in the Shade.
Mark, I'm guilty right now. I've been smirking over here. I've been giggling to myself. When you were giving your description of the pool and the girl on the recliner, I had the exposed video pop into my head. Do you remember the girl being massaged? And I just wanted to jump in right then and there and say, well, you need to have Sonny the Chimp holding drinks.
Well, there you go. There you go. I mean, with the summertime scene,
Yeah, Hot in the Shade. I mean, again, for me, look at some of the singles covers, and I mentioned the one. I guess it's the same session for what they used for First Kiss, Last Legs, but the Hide Your Heart UK single has them behind a bright kind of I don't know what you'd call that sort of wall, kind of mud wall, hot in the shade, kind of more visual. But you brought up one thing that I really want to go back to on my pick for Revenge, that you have the Sphinx, which had very little to do at that point when you see it visually with the tour. Maybe Revenge should have had that Statue of Liberty kind of a similar sort of style to how they did the Sphinx for Hot in the Shade, that if you had after you've got the skeleton, it would have made a hell of a lot more sense to people who went to that tour and then saw, Statue of Liberty giving you the finger. So thank you for bringing up Hot in the Shade. I've got nothing on that album. I'm just bombed by the material. I can't think of anything to do to package that fucker up to make it make sense. Nope.
I like your ideas, Mark. I actually maybe would switch your front with your back cover kind of thing. Maybe put more of a close up, a girl maybe laying down. The side, her head turned to the side, but do have that sunburned into her back, the Kiss logo in her back there, and have her the focus point. But have that, and it's called Hot in the Shade. You can put that anywhere on the upper right hand corner or something like that. But I would have been an eye catcher, I think. I would have looked twice at that, something like that.
Yeah, Phoebe Cates sunburned.
Yeah, you could back then. Yeah, that might have worked.
That's a couple years too late. Yeah, no, that would make a good cover, actually. You just have her feet down at the bottom of the cover and then looking up, and there's her. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's you got to also think about who were your people that you're hoping to buy this record, right? Usually, or what they were hoping for was they were trying to re-attract a younger audience again, right? And, look at bands like Rat, Invasion of Your Privacy. They had a girl there, fixing herself up on the front cover. Those kind of covers were rampant in the 80s because they sold. They helped sell records, any way you look at it, Gene Simmons always said it, sex sells. He said that to Diana Ross, too, didn't he? When she was making her comeback record and he told her to lie all sexy on her album cover. And he thought that it would sell her more records. So, it's not a new idea, but it's definitely an idea that works, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. And that, obviously, Invasion of Your Privacy is an iconic cover to a certain extent, as far as Rat goes. And Hot in the Shade is not.
Exactly. All right, well, Ken, what's your third?
I almost was going to touch a classic one again, but I'm not going to do it.
Go for it.
No, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go with Monster. I'm used to seeing that image that they have on the front is most of what they take these days just for promoting themselves, for publicity. It's just another general picture of them, posing in front of the camera. And what does it have to do with Monster? I would have rather had them do something artwork-wise today with the technology and have them almost turning into monsters through their makeup and maybe fangs, or doing something else with it all. You could even do that with, maybe that's the point, bringing Ken Kelly back and doing that kind of thing. Maybe it's all going to be a painting and not an actual photo, and he can turn them into monsters. I mean, he could, I'm sure, do it no problem because he's such a great artist. But all their images get turned into more of a, maybe the cat is going to have the green eyes and so on, and maybe he'll have the fangs, and then Gene will be he'll have this like maybe more like the Dracula fangs and other stuff going on. Just more of maybe of a zombie look. Zombies are very popular in this this era right now.
Yeah,
they could have done something like that too. Them turning into zombies, like a zombie.
Or you know
kiss.
what?
So,
Actually,
yeah.
Ken, sorry, just
Go
really
ahead.
quickly. In the Psycho Circus cover, how you can do that thing where you flip it around and it had that cover where it changed. Why not do that?
Yeah, they could have
changed into zombies like that, right?
Yeah, the lenticular kind of thing, or whatever they call it.
Sorry, go on.
Where you've turned it and it changes them from their regular look into the monsters. Like they're changing into a monster. Yeah, I mean, I like that idea. That's a good idea. It would have been better than what I think is another generic cover. Just taking a photo session of them, and it's like I've seen the same thing so many times. Like, come on, give me something new. So that's for packaging. I'm okay. I mean, it had lyrics and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe put a poster in there or something. Maybe they could have put the poster of that image, the front image, in the album instead of on the cover.
Oh, I like it because it's got a picture of the band on the cover, which is exactly what I've been saying throughout. For my kind of requirements. My problem with Monster is, particularly like the vinyl, is that it should have been a gatefold, because in this day and age, vinyl, or whenever that came out, 2012, 2013, for some of the vinyl, it's a niche market then. So it really should have been tarted up to the extreme. I think the cover, I like the suggestion of Ken Kelly, and that immediately makes me think of 76 again, the Frankenstein machine. Frankenstein, monster, lay him on the table. You got Abner Devereaux, as the mad scientist with the electricity and the Tesla coils and all that shit going on. They could have done so much with all four of those members just lying on procedure tables with the electricity going. The focus being on Gene as the demon, as the monster of the group, but the glowing eyes, I like that. It could be very Phantom of the Park-ish, but it also
people would love that.
It could have been totally fun with a nod back to Phantom, with a nod back to Destroyer, executed by Ken. I think that would have been right in his realm. That's the same wheelhouse that a lot of his work is, the fantasy. So, yeah, that would have been a better one for them to have gone and revisited an artist from prior, eons. But, is it an inspired one? I had a problem, I like the photo, and it meets those kind of requirements for me that I like to see the band on the cover. But the 3D element, and they did the lenticular shit again on that, I was just like, come on guys, you already did this. Can we not get away from doing the same shit over and over just because everyone else is doing it? You guys already did this in 1998. I never want to see another lenticular cover again. I just don't need to. Why not do a pop-up cover if you really want to be different? Start doing something outside the box, preferably that someone else hasn't done. So, I thought the back cover was absolutely dreadful. It's just a cop-out. There's absolutely nothing going on there. A song listing. Okay, well that's very utilitarian. It's got your function, but it's boring. So they could easily do a lot with Monster, but it's certainly not the worst.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting, though, that you mentioned that your requirement of a good cover is the band on it, which I think for a band like Kiss, it works definitely well for them, because, I mean, in makeup, it's just such an image to see, isn't it? I mean, to see them in their costumes and stuff like that, and that's Kiss, right? I mean, out of makeup, it was a little bit more trickier, I'm guessing, and maybe that's why they didn't do it as often, right? But I remember, I don't know if you guys ever saw this, but before Monster came out, somebody posted somewhere on a message board, maybe even on the FAQ, a cover. Somebody claimed that this was the new cover for Monster, and all it was basically was just like a black background with like this shield, like a knight's shield with like a dragon on it. And somebody
Oh
was
yeah,
claiming
I
that this
saw that.
was the cover, yeah, of Monster. And I remember when I first saw it, I was kind of like, nothing too exciting. But at least in the term of Monster, that kind of made a little bit more sense to me than just a straight up picture of the band. Again, like I mean, the picture is not my problem. I like the picture that they have on Monster, but again, how does that tie in with Monster? You know what I mean? That's the only trouble that I have with it, right?
Yeah. I think we've been lucky, though, overall. If you look back at the number of albums Kiss has, obviously there's a lot of covers that we could say have gone terribly wrong. I think Kiss Alive 3, we haven't touched on any of the live albums.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to throw one out for being very uninspired, Kiss Alive 3 has elements that I think could have worked very nicely, but just don't quite work. Carnival of Souls doesn't count.
Yeah.
You Wanted the Best, bit of a miss for me. I never thought much of that. But from the studio albums, there's only a few that really you can say suck. And The Elder is one. Animalize is probably another. Asylum, unfortunately, is going to probably be one that most people say. Well, if you say, tell me the 3 worst Kiss covers, I think you're going to get very few people who come out and say anything to do with the first 6 studio albums. They might, like Ken, say, that they could have done a better photo, or they should never have done, Peter's screwed up makeup. They should have done something that was a little bit more representative. But they're not going to say, oh, that first album cover, man, that's awful. That absolute garbage. No, I don't think any Kiss fan is going to say that. They're pretty nice about Kiss product until Dynasty and Unmasked, and then, like the band's popularity, it's all a bit downhill.
I mean, the only other cover that comes to mind that maybe they could have did something a little bit better with than just how it was, and I really am hesitant to mention this one because I really love this record and I really have grown to like this cover, is Killers. I mean, there's something about it I just seem to like. I do like the coloring scheme, the kind of pinkish background. For some reason, it seems to work with this album cover, and it's always been one of my favorite album covers. But I mean, again, Killers, it's just them sitting. I mean, they could have maybe did more with it, but I was very hesitant to even think about that one.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. Ken, would you want to mention what that one that you were thinking about doing was?
Oh yeah.
Well, okay. Dress to Kill. Dress to Kill. And I think we mentioned before in another episode that I would have rather have had them do the full photo session where they do that thing where they're changing from their regular street clothes and then they all go into the phone booth, a la Superman, and then come out in their full costume. So I would have rather had something like that go on. Because if you look at that one on the front cover, you're like, why are they dressed in suits? Do they play in suits on stage? I don't know.
Yeah.
I would have rather showed that, no, they become this when they change, and this is what they're like on stage. Even maybe they're in their suits and they're like one guy's holding the paper or something, reading the paper, and another guy is smoking a cigarette or whatever. And then when those objects that they're holding in their hands become their instruments at the end. Gene has his guitar, and they all have guitars, and Peter has his drumsticks. So yeah, they could have done something like that. I think it would have been
interesting.
I know it's sacrilege. I love that cover though. I mean, it's just classic and iconic.
But they really could have did it, because if you think about it, the backside is just like a negative image, right? I mean,
they could have done it on the back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the one. The other one, like Julian was talking about, is The Elder. I mean, not have their image anywhere in the package just blew my mind when I bought that album. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, they could have done something, the door, and have a float something where, okay, yeah, you open the door yourself. You have a cutout where you open the door, and they're all standing there in their new costumes around the elder table or whatever it is. Something like that, at least to show them.
Yeah.
Yeah, going back to Dress to Kill, I have one problem with that. I think they really could have done a design that was symmetrical. That misspelled
The
kiss.
K, the missing K,
the missing
or
S, the
Or is it
missing
S?
S,
Yeah,
on the top right. You know,
upper right hand corner.
when you look at the top, line of Kiss, the two upside down and the one in white in the middle. I should have just repeated that one around. I just don't. It bothers me now, and I didn't notice that until a few years ago when someone mentioned it on the message board. So it's not like something that's been bugging me ever since. But ever since I did find out about it, it bothers me.
Yeah.
It bothers me a lot. It's not too late to fix it, Kiss. Come on.
It doesn't bother me too much.
You spelt your name wrong on one of your albums.
Still pronounced the same.
Well, Kiss. Just get Mike Tyson to say it, Kith.
Okay.
Which is how I'm speaking today. I can't speak at all.
Nice.
Okay. Any last albums? We've done our 3 picks. I'm just scrolling through the FAQ here, looking at the covers, and there's just so much amazing art.
I've seen alternate Alive 2s that people have come up with Alive 2s that look better, to me more symmetrical, where the wording is more kept center, and then the photos on the outside kind of. I've seen some designs where people move that around, and I said I thought it looked a little bit better, but it's another classic.
Even for what it is, and it's probably one of the least appealing ones from that era of the band. I mean, come on, big logo, 4 little pictures. Yeah. I've seen the one where they put 2 of the pictures on the side of the Roman numeral 2, and because I'm just so used to seeing it, it bothers me. It just doesn't feel right. But, again, it doesn't go anywhere near being as good as the original Alive cover. It's almost like while you open up the gatefold and you have that explosion, the incredible appearance of the stage, that the front cover should really have the band live on the Love Gun stage.
Yeah, and they had some good photos of those, photo sessions of those, where they put one of the photos on the trash can, and where they're on stage together on the Love Gun stage with the stairs behind them, and that would have been a great cover.
Yeah, and there's a whole ton of really cool pictures from the era on the Don Russ training cards that a lot of them, a lot of them would easily have worked well as the cover of Alive too. So I think I've just invalidated my own suggestion that no one in their right mind would touch any of the classic Kiss albums. We can, see what happens when Kiss fans get together and talk. We change our minds in the middle of what we're talking about.
Yeah, well, like I said, sometimes people come up with these great ideas, and I think that might also be kind of the minor appeal of bootleg albums, is that sometimes a person who makes these has a good idea, and people kind of connect to that idea and are drawn to that album because of it,
Yeah, and
I keep hearing
there's been some really good packaging on the bootleg albums, and you often see them go to town. I mean, just think of obviously it's a CD, but there's a box set that came out recently, a Kiss, 10 CDs box booklet, or some of the artwork that's sometimes used, just incredible.
Yeah.
All right, so there we are. We've gone on about our picks of the 3 albums that we think could really have used alternative covers. What are yours? Come over to the Facebook page or over to the FAQ message board, and when this topic's up, chime in with what you think, really should have been changed, or what could be changed. Obviously art's a very subjective thing, so there's really no wrong answer except for doing brown wooden doors as covers and expecting anyone to buy your record. So we appreciate you listening to us today, and we hope we'll have you again as our audience. So thank you all. Mark, Ken, thank you for your time today, and we will see you all on the board. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.